Definitely.
Hello, I think we are live. Hello everyone, I'm just checking to be sure. Yes, we are live. So, hello everyone. I am very, very excited to be here. For a long time, haven't done a live, and with me sitting Benjamin Bogosian, a dear, dear friend. Yes, so we are here with the topic of passages, death and birth in dreams. A huge topic. I'm really, really curious to know who will join us tonight, and of course it will be recorded to the ones who cannot join us. And just to say before we start everything that last night we celebrated the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, meaning the longest night and the shortest day of the year. I'm mentioning it because for dreamers this is the time of hibernation. This is the time of getting to sleep like birds, going into our caves. We have plenty of hours to sleep and to dream. And in the winter is really, really the time, the best time, right? To dream. I slept last night, I think 10 hours to be honest. And I had a very, very interesting dreams. So happy solstice, and let's start. What else should we say in the beginning, Benjamin?
Just a warm welcome to everyone from my side. It's good to be here to talk, especially to this topic at this time of year. And just knowing that it's been a topic that Leah and I have been carrying for months, maybe over a year.
Over a year, yeah.
Thinking how to bring such a course, how to do it, how to guide a space for people, also for us, to look deeper into this topic of life, what we call death, and what it means for ourselves, transformation, birth, also while we are still alive, to go through processes of death and birth while we're still alive. Yeah. And especially reminded at this time of year of this process where we come to the depths of the darkness, and then again coming up with the light returning, and to use this. It's not just a symbolic year, but I think something very energetically important happens this time of year. So for me, it's personally very interesting and meaningful to speak about this now.
Yeah. It feels very, very accurate somehow. And before we are diving into the topic, and I want as well to invite you, if you have things to share or to ask, just write in comments. We see it, and hopefully we will have time for questions if there are. And yeah, as well, saying if we will have time for questions if there are. So I want to say, when we bring the topic of death and birth, it invites me to be so humble, meaning that for sure I will not have answers to all the questions. Myself, I have so many questions, and I think all of us as living beings, especially in our culture where it's really, really a taboo, this topic, we don't really have the knowledge, most of us. Nothing is preparing us to it. What do prepare us to it? Our dreams, If we remember our dreams, even if we don't remember our dreams. I think, and we will speak about it, but just to mention it now, that the Tibetan Buddhism, everything there is somehow preparation for death, meaning that dreams every night is preparing us to those moments. And death is not only the physical death in the end of our life, but we're experiencing death all the time as we're experiencing birth all the time. In our breath, in the day and night, in the seasons, in attachments that we have in our life, and relationships that we have that's starting or ending, it's all the time there. So just with this, I really want to invite to this talk Um, First of all, a huge gratitude to this topic. And may it serve and may it guide us and may it protect us through this talk and through the course that we will speak about, that we are offering with this topic. Just thank you for the call of death, while we are alive, which tell us, I am your friend, and take me by the hand. And it doesn't mean that it's the end, It means that you are alive. So with these words, I want to start.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lee. And I want to catch that and talk about words, because the way that we can communicate with each other is through language, and language has its own underwritten code, and I want to be careful that we make sure we're speaking about the same thing. And one foundation for me and for Lee as well is, at least in the English language, it's often very much assumed, I would say, without really having been told this directly, but just because of the fear of our culture, death is the opposite of life. This is not the case, actually. Birth is the opposite of death. But both birth and death are part of life. And in choosing also the words for a course on death and birth in dreams, we didn't say birth and death in dreams, we said death and birth in dreams, specifically because a death always means something new will come, which definitely addresses a very big fear of, you'd say, nihilism or annihilation, that when I die, I'm nothing. And many people carry this fear. In many societies, and even within a single society, there are people who have very different, varying beliefs, but this is at least the foundation we work with when we are talking about death and birth in dreams. And also the word dream, and death for me are not, they're linguistically not synonymous or connected, but in my world, how much I've worked with dreams, also in conversations with Lee, how much the two have so much to do with each other. And I can also just say birth, just waking up every day anew. There's something very similar there that I feel it's important enough to note that every day I reflect on these kinds of things when I consider, what does dream work really mean for my life?
With this, it's really beautiful what you just brought with the wording. It reminds me, and the Egyptian culture, the ancient culture, the word for dreams and for awakening is the same word, razwat. There is no, I forgot the word, but there is no difference in a way between those two. And I feel we can find it in many, many cultures, especially old cultures, ancient cultures, that awakening, death, birth, dreams are very much interconnected. And I think that we all feel it, but in our cultures, we don't necessarily have the wordings for it any longer. So, just to say, because we keep mentioning it, but we are offering a course, a dreaming course that will start next month, the 30th of January. And I'm bringing it here just that you know that one of the reasons for this talk today is as well to bring the awareness for this course. It is an advanced one for students who already learned with me or with us together. And for more details, just write to us and we can continue. So maybe some questions. Like, why death and dreams?
Yeah. I mean, there are different layers to it. I mean, you also mentioned already the Tibetan culture, no? And a background that I come from very much in my own practice and training, knowing that there is a very strong association with death and falling asleep, and certain states of the death process related to dreaming, and that this is, like you said, a very strong moment of awakening. But beyond, like when we talk about preparing for death just by basic experience, there's so much symbolism in dreams themselves that don't have to do with our physical death or the experience, but death of our ego, death of certain relationships that either have happened or need to happen. I just use an example. I knew I really needed to end an intimate relationship after a dream told me that's it. And it wasn't a symbol of my own physical death, but something told me death needs to happen here. And it was very gentle and compassionate, but it said that needs to end for your well-being, for hers. And so that was a very important piece of information I got through dreams about a death that needed to happen in life. But I mean, every night we give ourselves away, you know.
Yeah.
On a larger scale, I may have a fear of dying forever, but every night I give myself to the unconscious. I give myself to a small death, actually. And then I'm reborn again in a dream, and then I'm shown important things, how my life shall continue. And another thing, and specifically if I think about what it means to work with the topic of both dreams and death together, is that in our daily life, we have, now maybe I just say, I have very little access to understanding death more. If I'm alone, not working with people, it's very hard to actually look in. Lee and I both have lost a very dear friend this past month, actually even 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Very, very dear friend, very loving and compassionate woman that many, many people loved. And through the experience of being together with many people that loved her and that she loved, and there was some people I didn't even know, through their reflections, through our common reflections about this death process, and now we could also talk about this through personal experiences we all have had. I come closer to the topic of death through the experience of others and through a very dear friend dying herself. Like, wow, okay, it is true. I'm going to die one day. Lee is going to die one day. And this female friend of ours, she was our age. Yeah. And that could have been me. And how would Lee be looking at me now if I'm not here anyway in my physical form? And it's very similar through dreams. Often I need people to reflect my dreams back to me so I can see a deeper layer of truth. So I'm not getting stuck in a habit of, oh, it's not so important. It was just this dream about that. But then a friend looks and says, hey, actually, that was very interesting. That seems very meaningful, that part of your dream. And then I have a new perspective. And I think this is the same with death.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And this is one way to work, but actually I would like to ask a question to you, which is like, what are ways you personally work with death? Because, you know, just like the way we work with dreams, we use the daytime energy to work towards our nighttime activities of dreaming and sleep. And now to use our precious life for the moment of death or working with this topic.
Yeah.
How do you work with death?
Wow, it's a big question. Like, I feel, first of all, I want to somehow to combine death and dreams, just to explain a bit how does it look, yeah, in my case, for example. And then from there I will go really how I deal with death in this respect. But what came to me now is, you know, many times we can truly dream about our own death or the death of others. And many times I'm having this phone call or people writing to me, I dreamt that I die, or I dreamt that my friend died. Is it going to happen? Yeah, like we have this fear that it's coming closer. And what is very, very interesting, that most of our dreams, like I think 90% of the dreams about death, are not speaking about physical death, yeah, but about other processes, that about time for those processes to die. If it's a pattern, if it's a belief system, if it's a friendship or whatever it is, relationship that doesn't serve anymore. So dreams all the time will show us what already died or what needs to be to die. Yeah. So this is one thing. But at the same time, I remember now when you were speaking, probably I was 18 or 19, and I was dating a guy, not for a long time. And one night I dreamt that his grandpa died. And I woke up in the morning, I never met his grandpa, and I told it to him. And 2 hours later, he get a phone call that his grandpa died in the same night. And I remember this shocking moment of, wow, okay, sometimes it really shows us. We can call it telepathical dreams or telepathic dreams that show us that truly something is happening. So we are touching a huge topic here. Like Benjamin now mentioned our dear friend that just passed, and there were so many dreams around her transition. Yeah, before, after, during, from a wide group of people from all around the world. And this is something that somehow I know we are capable to dream the passages. Some of us more with the newcomers, the women that are giving birth. So some of us can dream the tunnels of birth, and the others dream the tunnels of death. And as Benjamin said before, these are the two, like life is in the middle. We have birth, life, death. Yeah, these are the two gates. What is happening after, we will learn. But those two gates are huge, huge gates, and it's coming all the time in our dreams. And taking a breath in between, I feel as well, with this question, how I deal with death. Such a big one, I don't know even how to answer it. I can say for now that at the moment, in the last half a year, it's very close to me. Very, very close to me. Through different saying goodbyes in my life. And it comes a lot in my dreams as well. Yeah. And I think the main thing that death at the moment is teaching me is to listen. But to listen, really, really, to listen in, to listen out, to listen around, to listen to the breath of life. This is maybe one of the big things, and I can continue, but maybe now I will stop. And I will say as well, if you have questions or anything to share, please write it down. I see here, maybe I will write something that Mo wrote to us. As a child, my biggest fear or strange thought was that I was nothing before my birth. What do you say about that? It's great.
Yeah. I mean, this is the Pandora's box we open up with such a topic, no? Because then we touch so many things about cosmos, worldview, the journey of the spirit.
Cultures.
Yeah. Like, culture, like how culture is built is we pass down what we feel is important. And many cultures have stories around what the soul goes through. And I don't know what culture you grew up in exactly, but I can say in the West, this was a desert topic in my world. What happens to the soul before, after, during? Because if we're not careful these days, we slip into the basic Western baseline, which is materialism, which is consciousness is only what the brain does, and when the brain stops, then I stop. And even if we've never studied science and all this, it's our society in the West. So I would say we have to be careful to protect the soul of its purity from, I would just say, wrong worldviews. As much as beauty science has to offer, the baseline is very empty. I also say this being someone who studied physics in university and was very much disenchanted by the whole education system, which then also rules a certain narrative in society. And I just think it's very useful to have a proper, very positive perspective of death, of the journey of the soul. And this also informs this fear of who we are before we're born. Because if I realize I'm a continuity, I'm not, bleep, I start and then I end, but a continuity, I think it softens something in the heart. Yeah. And I can just apologize to that child you once were, that maybe the adults couldn't reach you to give you a better perspective, or couldn't give you the comfort you needed with that fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many fears, huh? How many fears we grew up with around those topics. And I feel at the moment the call that I hear, maybe we hear, it's really how to create more bridges between those gates and our daily life. Because sometimes I'm thinking about this course and I'm saying, wow, my God, it's so serious, it's so big, it's like the biggest topic ever. How can I even hold something like that? And then I remember how much I have trust. When I hear a call, I have trust there. And I know that we are going to enter, and we are already in it, I feel. It's like, if you mentioned this child, this example that we had, and all of us as our inner children, we had those questions, and we had those doubts, and we had those fears. And I feel as well as adults, most of us, we're still walking with those questions. And I feel to provide a space of people together researching around this topic and speaking it and bringing the seriousness and the lightness as well. Death as well can be cheeky, can be I don't know, I don't have the words, but it's really something that it can bring so much love. I feel how much death is teaching us to love deeper and stronger. And so I'm starting saying, wow, it's so serious. Yes, it's serious, and it's part of our daily life. Yeah, everything is around birth and death. So I feel like how we can honor our dreams more in this respect. And I'm very curious. I'm very, very curious what will come. Yes. Good. Any questions? Anything more to say? If you see my fingers, it's because I'm checking on the computer.
While you're looking for another question, maybe I just add, I think it was last winter, you and I attended a talk by an Italian man who used to be a Buddhist monk, and now he works in palliative care as a nurse, so he takes care of dying people. Yeah. And he specifically works with the topic of death, and coming more from the Tibetan tradition, that is very, very rich in this topic, and very positive in many ways, I would say, about the view of death. And one thing interesting, because we as people, as personalities, we believe in death. And he said something, he says, I'm not sure if this is true, but Freud, and we can now debate if Freud, he had many things that I would just throw out the window immediately, but he also had a very deep insight into the human aspects of the human mind, or personality, I would like to say. And he said something really interesting. He says, according to Freud, the unconscious mind cannot recognize death. It does not know death. And he did not now give a further answer, this man who gave this talk, but he did provide a question then, why? And one could start to suppose maybe because the deeper aspects of ourselves know that death doesn't really exist. could be one. And I found it a very thought-provoking question. When we as personalities get caught up, what would truth really show us? The deeper aspects to ourselves. And Lee mentioned it can be very cheeky, very lovable, very playful also, like this aspect of death. And I also know this from dreams where death has approached in one form or another, where in the moment I wouldn't say this is death now coming to me, this topic, but in the morning I would say, wow, that was a deeply symbolic representation of death. Either the ending of my own life or of a loved one or of a situation in my life. But it was a very death approaching with a lot of love and care. So I can say, does the unconscious mind not know death? But symbolically to know transformation, I think so. But I still walk with this question. Yeah, according to a certain perspective from my own deeper soul, would my soul agree that death is something that really happens, or is it just a transition? So, yeah. And of course, this is not something you could address a child that is afraid, who was I before I was born, or who will I be after I die? But just interesting to note that deeper, below all our personalities, as a personality as a child, or as an adult, or as an elder, it might be that our deeper selves don't recognize death because it doesn't really exist. Yeah. Maybe you take the thought. Yeah.
I believe that. And I think, by the way, that some children have the knowledge.
Yes.
That some children you speak with and they know much more than I do. That I remember. Because they're closer to the gate. They're just closer to the gate, especially till the age of 7 and of course till the age of 3. But after 7 we are already, we are more grounded with our feet on the ground. And it's amazing to speak with children about it.
A 4-year-old told her mother, she's now 9, but this happened some years ago, she told her mama, Mama, next life I will be your mama. And, last life I was your grandma. And who knows where this child gets these words. I mean, it could just be from daily life, but the ease this child had talking about, next life, yeah.
It's like a play. Now your mama, no, yeah.
It was very, very, how do you say?
Natural?
I want to start creating words in English, but I don't want to do that. I wanted to say heartening. It brings the heart into life.
It's beautiful. I feel as well this is the quality that we can. It really depends on our consciousness, and the consciousness is changing all the time. I can be sometimes in a place where death will threaten me, where I will have a dream and I will wake up in the morning and I'll say, oh God, okay, I need to deal with something now. It's serious. And other times, like this child, with this lightness that knows consciousness is not consciousness, but in a way life and death is, from this consciousness, is like a beautiful game in this universe. And whoever believe in it, that we are keep coming and going and coming and going and coming and going, so it's very serious and it's light. And I think what I truly want to bring to my life, and of course to this course, is this too, is to contain those opposites inside of me. And we have a question. It's in Hebrew, so I will translate it. Do you think that there is a connection between our ability to end a relationship that is not good for us anymore with the moment when we are coming to death? Like if there is a connection between knowing how to end a relationship and knowing how to die. It's a very interesting question. Thank you for this. Interesting.
What do you think?
I think yes. I think that this is part of the practice of death. I think that if we keep learning how to end anything that needs to be ended in life in a good way. And when I say in a good way, it's really to work with all our bodies and with time, yeah? With our physical body, what my heart needs, with our emotional body, our mental body, our spiritual body, really, really to take it seriously as a teaching for life. And I think this is part of the practice. And yeah, hopefully we will not have thousands of breakups, so that will become our practice, yeah? Like not to become addicted in this, but to understand that this is part of death, definitely. This is death in a certain level. So I will say yes in a simple way. What do you think?
Yeah, I would also, I would say definitely. And I would add just simply because I'm such a habitual being, and I think other humans were habitual. We have strong habits, and in my circumstance, I think 2 years ago, also leaving a relationship, I was staying in because I was addicted is maybe a bit too strong for this case, but it could say addicted to a certain pattern of relating to other people where I was again and again repeating, searching for healing at a certain point, but also repeating staying the victim, or something needed to happen again and again. And so I felt I need to stay in this relation. And then actually in a car ride with Lee, I said, and this is interesting, this comes now with this question, is I need more room for death in my life, that something can come. Because I realize it is the next healthy step to end it. And I realize now, anytime I can stop a habit in a moment, because when death comes, I can't now say, okay, I need another month to get rid of this and that habit. And, we can talk about relationships, but I can talk about any habit. If I die with a sense of craving, I need now something, instead of fully surrendering myself to the process, which I will lose everything, my physical body, all my love for chocolate, relationships, all this.
Likes chocolate.
Yeah. So in that moment, doesn't mean I stop loving those things or those people, but to say, but I need to go somewhere else now, because those things are physical. They need to stay in the physical realm. And as far as I know, I don't stay physical. I go on. And so as much as I can be able to surrender in each moment, the practice of surrender, I would say, this is what it's about. And for sure, surrender means getting rid of habit. It means giving myself to creation, giving myself to the spontaneity of the moment. And there it is a practice of death for me. Yeah. To be ready at any moment. It's like if I'm walking through the streets and someone says, I like your shirt, do I give it to the person right away? I mean, it's probably not appropriate to walk around half naked in a city, but just, I don't know, I'll use that as a kind of joking example, but to be able to give my shirt to somebody in that moment, for me, is a practice of death.
Yeah, I somehow like you speak about it, and I'm seeing already the course and the little practices that we're going to play with, like this, like check every day what is the one thing that you are aware of, that you give away, that you stop your attachment, that you release. It can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be anything, but it is happening all the time. How much am I conscious about it? I don't know. So to put more consciousness about it, and not only consciousness, but action, to do it. Yeah, as Benjamin gave this example, to say, today I will give something. Yeah.
I did this for 1 year. I made a commitment that if somebody compliments something of mine,
You did it.
I have to offer it to them. And at first it was really scary to imagine, wow, what if they like my shoes? What if they like my computer? I had to set some limits. I didn't give away my computer or phone. The rest was okay.
Wow.
But it actually relaxed something to know I'm ready to give myself or give something away with that kind of decision. It actually brings relaxation and not stress to the system. And I think, if we can have practices or ways of working with death that relax us, this is a real authentic practice. It should not create stress.
Yeah.
Whether it be with dreaming, whatever. It should actually, preparation for death in this sense really means I'm relaxing into it, which is another form of surrender.
Mm. Wow.
Well, I haven't thought about that in a while.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, I feel there is a lot, and I feel as well it's somehow good slowly, yeah, unless there is a certain question or something come, like a topic, but I feel as well it's round. I will say as well that in this course, or in this, because I'm saying course and it's more than a course for me, yeah, it's really to walk a certain path that I feel I am walking in it for a long time, and now it calls me to another level. I feel as well in the course itself we will speak about ceremonies, we will speak about different plants that has to do with those gates, with the cultures, the Tibetan culture, the Yaqui Toltec culture, the Egyptian ancient culture, different cultures that really held dreams and death together. Yeah, there are quite some. I feel we're going to practice in different ways, and mainly I feel it's really a deep breath, like it feels like a deep dive somehow. This course, I'm already through this talk, I'm starting to sense it more. And we have a question from David. I love your questions, David. It's a huge one, but I will start with translate it. He would love to hear what is the specialities and what is driving us to the different cultures of Tibetan, Egyptian, and Toltec to do with dreams. So this definitely we will speak about it in the course, yeah? But I would say one thing about it, that one of the things I really like about the connection between Benjamin and I and the way we are teaching together is that we are driven to different cultures, yeah? I feel Benjamin is very much walking in the path of the Tibetan Buddhism for many years. I'm more driven to the Toltec Yaqui tradition of Central America in Mexico. And they have a very different perspective. And at the same time, when we go deeper into it, into the layers, it's more or less the same. We will always find in all the big truths of the world and paths of the world, we will find the same truths. And the Egyptian, yeah, it's another big love of mine. I don't know about Benjamin. There are a lot of differences there, and we will not get into it here because with honoring those cultures, I feel it's not a 5 minutes thing. I will just maybe say one thing, yeah? One of the sentences I love from the Buddhism, from the Tibetan culture, is that the biggest moment of awakening is the moment of death. Yeah? I always take this sentence. The Toltec, they are speaking about death as our best friend, saying that if we will not reach our hand to death while we are living, we will not learn how to live. Yes, he is our biggest teacher. And for the Egyptians, I said it in the beginning of the conversation, that their word for awakening and dreams is the same word, razwat. So 3 things from those 3 cultures, and there is much more. And maybe you want to add something to it, or
just on the line of cultures, it wasn't mentioned because these are really big ancient old cultures, and I would not say Western culture, but at least to mention our Swiss shaman of the modern era, which is
Carl Jung.
Thank you, Carl Jung. I was thinking Freud. I didn't want to repeat the name. Carl Jung, who was an amazing man who formulated with Western words and concepts the depths of the human mind and soul. That I feel he has a lot of knowledge that that matches a lot, or at least in the quality, matches ancient cultures that we also have in Europe. Some people that really understood death and dreams. Him dreaming much more than I would say death, but these topics of understanding how we grow and develop, which includes small deaths along the way, if not just talking about the end of this particular life. Yeah, and Lee said it enough. I mean, it's a huge topic, and to try to summarize in my own words, Tibetan Buddhist tradition of several thousand years in a couple minutes, I think Lee gave the best headline, but mainly that there are many practitioners and masters who have developed and left their knowledge over hundreds of years. And through the lineages, we've been given big gifts. Yeah.
Beautiful. Maybe the last thing here from Sivan. I'm not sure I will translate all of it, but the concept of it, because it's interesting. She's speaking about those dreams that you are dreaming that you're almost dying, and in the moment of almost dying, you're waking up, and saying, yes, it was a dream, I'm alive. And that speaking about a dream in a dream in a dream in a dream in a dream, yes, when we are in a way can wake up into another dream and wake up into another dream and another dream. And so those concepts as well, so first, Sivan, like I want to share as well from my own experience, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Sometimes I didn't wake up when I died, but I died in the dream, and I continued into the next phase of what does it mean to feel when I'm dead, for example, or the moment before I am reborn into the next thing. So there are, in the dream world, there is no limitation. There are no boundaries there. So everything can happen, but it's very classical, the example that Sivan gives us, that we are almost, yes, and then we wake up. By the way, it can be almost with many things, almost eating the ice cream, almost having the orgasm and waking up in this moment. And it's one of the practices as dreamers to stay, even if it's very exciting or very frightened, to stay in the dream and to see what will come. It's a lucid dreamer, I would say, practice, lucid dreaming practice as well, and dream practice. And yes, I think that in the moment when we will die, I think one of my biggest wishes for myself is to die into a dream. Just to die into a dream and not to be able to come back to the physical body, but to know how to navigate in the world of dreams. Because one day we will just continue in this dream without coming back to our physical body. And I think it's the best way to die, if you ask me. Yes, so with this, maybe I will just ask you if you have something to give us to the end.
I don't know if I have clever words to end, but you just gave me goosebumps with the last statement. To die into a dream.
Remember it. For me.
I will remember. Yeah. Maybe to the wider topic, for me, reflecting on how much our Western culture, my Western culture, don't want to assume everyone is from the Western culture, but generally Western culture, which is also spreading all over the world, carries a deep fear of death at the core of the culture. Lack of knowledge, lack of experience, lack of appreciation, lack of rituals. But anytime we can bring these shadows into the light and reflect upon them, and to create culture around them, to create rituals, or to create circles of people as one form of ritual, that we learn not to carry these topics alone. And then night after night, some people have dreams of dying and death and violence every night, and they're just alone with them. But the ability to share, to speak, and to be heard by others, this is already creating a solution or a healing for this point of a culture which has a big wound around death. And fear is the biggest symptom of that wound. So for me, one reason why to have such a live now and to be willing to be and humble enough to hold such a course is, I know this is important cultural work. So if I can be in service to this, then this is worth it, no matter what comes out of it. So yeah, and I just can say thank you for listening now to us and to this topic, and we hope it's helpful for you reflecting on your own contribution, not to your life and to others, but also a wider culture where we will all be benefited by a culture that accepts death at its core. Yeah. So those are, I think, my closing words.
Thank you. Very beautiful. I'm feeling lighter and touched as well by this topic, and just to speak about it. And thank you for your questions and for your beautiful, everything that you wrote and you asked. It's beautiful. I will just say this last thing from David, that in Judaism, death through sleep has a certain name, has a specific name, and the name is kiss death.
Kiss?
Yes.
Like kiss?
Kiss. Death of kiss. This is in Judaism when a person dies while asleep. So there is so much wisdom, coming from our ancestors, coming from different ancestors who are not ours, but from different cultures, and just a lot of honoring for this topic, for the beauty of death and birth and life and dreams. Thank you for being with us. If you want any more information, just write to us. Yes, see you in dreams. And thank you. Thank you, Benjamin.
Thank you, Lee.
Have a beautiful night or morning, wherever you are. Ciao.